The world was silent for one breath when the news broke. A secret meeting involving Wang Yibo, Xiao Zhan and Shen Yue in the same room at the same time. Three of the biggest names in the industry, 3 stars who were never supposed to cross paths again, 3 hearts carrying unresolved stories and unfinished emotions. And it all happened without a single camera catching the beginning. Before we dive into the truth of what took place that night, make sure you subscribe, because what you are about to hear is a story that will leave you speechless from start to finish, a story with twists that no one expected. Now let us begin. The night started quietly with heavy rain pouring through the empty streets of the private studio district. Only a few cars passed by, leaving shadows across the pavement. Shen Yue stood under the dim entrance light, her hands cold, her heart racing, because she knew this meeting would change everything. She had been called there without warning, without explanation, just a single message from an unknown number telling her to arrive at exactly midnight. She walked inside the building slowly, the kind of slow that happens when fear mixes with curiosity. The hallway lights flickered above her. The air felt thick, like the building itself was holding its breath. Then she saw him first. Wang Yibo stood at the far end, leaning against a glass wall, his expression unreadable. He did not smile. He did not move. He simply watched her quietly, as if he had been waiting for this moment far longer than she realized. Shen Yue stopped breathing for one moment, because it had been so long since she last saw him. Too long. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the door behind her clicked softly. She turned slowly and her heart nearly fell to her knees. Xiao Zhan had just walked in. He closed the door gently, his eyes lifting to meet hers. His expression was soft, almost sad, but strong in a way she could not understand. Shen Yue stared at the 2 men in front of her, realizing that the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm forming inside that room. Wang Yibo finally spoke, his voice low and calm. He said they all needed to talk. He said the truth had been buried for too long. He said everything that happened in the past, everything that was misunderstood, everything that broke all 3 of them needed to be brought to light. Shen Yue felt her hands tremble. Xiao Zhan stepped closer, telling her she did not have to be afraid. That tonight was not about blame. It was about clarity. The 3 of them sat around a lone table with the sound of thunder rumbling above the roof. For a long moment none of them spoke. The silence was thick, like a wall, trapping all of their emotions inside. Then Xiao Zhan began. He told the truth about the rumors from years ago, the ones that created divides between them, the whispers that turned friends into distant shadows. He admitted that he had been hurt by the lies that spread so easily, but he had also been unsure how to clear them without making things worse. Shen Yue listened, her heart tightening with each word. She remembered the interviews, the headlines, the fans who created narratives none of them ever intended. She remembered crying alone because the world believed a story that was never hers. Wang Yibo leaned forward, then his voice steady but heavy. He said he had seen the pain Shen Yue carried. He said he knew she felt torn between the both of them because of things she never chose. He confessed that he also had regrets. That he should have spoken earlier. That he should have protected their friendship before it collapsed. Shen Yue felt tears rising, but she forced them back. She apologized for staying silent when everything was falling apart. She told them she never wanted to choose sides. She only wanted peace. The room grew still. Then something happened that Shen Yue did not expect. Wang Yibo pushed a small envelope across the table. He said it contained the real truth, the one none of them had ever seen, the evidence that proved everything had been manipulated from the beginning. Someone had created the fights, someone had planted lies, someone had benefited from turning them against each other. Shen Yue gasped, seeing the documents inside. Xiao Zhan clenched his jaw, his eyes darkening with realization. The truth was shocking. Almost unbelievable. And it meant that everything they lost was never meant to be lost. Shen Yue covered her mouth as tears finally escaped. She whispered that none of them deserved this, none of them deserved the pain they were forced to carry alone. Wang Yibo stood slowly and walked to her, offering his hand. Xiao Zhan stood on her other side, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. For the first time in years they stood together, not as distant former friends but as 3 people united by the truth. The storm outside began to calm, as if the sky itself was exhaling after holding tension for too long. But then the most mind-blowing moment of the night happened. The studio door opened once again. An older man stepped inside, someone all three of them recognized. A director they had once trusted. He looked shocked to see them together and even more shocked that the truth had been uncovered. His face paled as he tried to explain, but none of them wanted explanations. Not anymore. Wang Yibo told him calmly that the truth would come out now whether he liked it or not. Xiao Zhan warned him that the industry would no longer protect these schemes. Shen Yue quietly said that she finally felt free. The director left quickly, knowing everything was over. The three stars looked at each other in silence. Something old had ended. Something new had begun. They promised to rebuild what was broken. Not for fans, not for the public, not for the industry, but for themselves. For the friendship they lost. For the trust that was stolen. For the peace they all deserved. When they walked out of the studio together, paparazzi lights exploded in the night sky. Fans were shocked. The world shook. And a new beginning was born from a secret meeting no one saw coming. The silence that followed the tense moment between Wang Yibo, Xiao Zhan, and Shen Yue felt too heavy to ignore. But what none of them realized was that this secret meeting was only the beginning of a storm none of them were prepared for. Everything that happened after this moment would shake friendships, expose hidden truths, and push every one of them to the emotional edge. When the door finally closed behind them, Shen Yue let out a slow, shaky breath. She thought the difficult part was over. But she was wrong. The real challenge began the moment they stepped into the cold night air and found dozens of messages flooding their phones. Fans were already guessing something was up. Rumors were spreading that the three of them had been spotted together. Photos began to circulate, though unclear and poorly taken. But the internet did not care. Speculation exploded. Shen Yue felt a chill run down her spine as she read one message after another. She feared her secret would come to light. That hidden message she had once sent to someone very important. That video clip she hoped would never resurface. Xiao Zhan noticed her panic and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. He whispered that everything was going to be fine. But his voice carried something else, something he was not saying out loud. Worry. Concern. Maybe even fear. Wang Yibo stood nearby staring at his own phone. His expression unreadable. His jaw tight. His eyes colder than the night around them. Whatever he read on that screen made him step aside and call someone immediately. Shen Yue glanced at Xiao Zhan, confused. Xiao Zhan shook his head slowly, signaling her to stay calm. But calm was impossible. Because at that exact moment, something happened that changed the course of the entire night. A black car pulled up quietly beside them. The tinted window rolled down. And Shen Yue froze. Inside sat someone she never thought she would see that night. Dylan Wong. He stared at her with the same intensity that had once made her heart race. But tonight it was different. His expression held something sharper. Something that felt like disappointment. And pain. He spoke her name slowly. Shen Yue. Her heart sank. This was not part of the plan. None of them had expected Dylan to show up. Not here. Not tonight. Not after everything that happened between them. Xiao Zhan stepped forward cautiously, trying to read the situation. Wang Yibo lowered his phone and approached the car with a serious expression. The tension in the air grew so deep that even the wind felt heavier. Dylan stepped out of the car and walked toward them. His voice was calm. Too calm. He asked why they were all here without him. Why they had a meeting behind his back. Why Shen Yue had not told him anything. Shen Yue tried to speak, but her voice cracked. She said it was not what he thought. She said he was misunderstanding. She tried to explain, but the words would not come out right. Dylan looked at her with eyes full of questions and something else she recognized instantly. Hurt. It became clear he had seen something. Something he should never have seen. Maybe a photo. Maybe a message. Maybe a recording from earlier. Whatever it was, it had shaken him enough to show up unannounced. Wang Yibo stepped between them before the silence could turn into something more damaging. He tried to explain that the meeting was meant to protect someone, not betray anyone. Xiao Zhan supported him, saying this was not a secret meant to exclude Dylan but a situation they were trying to handle carefully. Dylan listened but his eyes remained fixed on Shen Yue. He whispered her name again as if trying to understand why she had changed. Why she had grown distant. Why she had chosen silence over honesty. Shen Yue took a step closer, her heart pounding. She finally told him the truth. The truth she had been afraid of saying for months. She admitted she had been hiding something. Not because she wanted to deceive him but because she feared it would break him. Dylan asked her what it was. The world seemed to slow as she gathered her courage. She said there was a message she sent long ago to someone from her past. A message filled with emotions she had never admitted out loud. And that message had resurfaced, threatening to destroy everything. Dylan felt something inside him shift. The truth hit him deeper than he expected. But before he could respond, Wang Yibo interrupted with urgency. He said the message had been leaked to a small private group of insiders. It could go public at any moment. And if it did, the internet would twist it into something unrecognizable. The consequences would be extreme. Xiao Zhan added that the entire reason for the secret meeting was to protect Shen Yue before everything spiraled out of control. Dylan closed his eyes for a moment. Processing. Fighting emotion with silence. Eventually he looked at her again and whispered that she should have trusted him. That he would have stood by her. That she did not need to carry this alone. Shen Yue broke down. The truth. The fear. The pressure. Everything crashed over her all at once. But something unexpected happened. Instead of turning away, Dylan stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. He held her tightly while Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan looked away, giving them the space they needed. The night softened. The tension dissolved slowly like mist. The four of them stood together under the quiet sky, finally united instead of divided. Dylan promised he would help protect her. Wang Yibo agreed to handle the leaked message. Xiao Zhan said he would speak to the insiders and secure their silence. For the first time that night, Shen Yue felt hope. But the story did not end there. Hours later, a final twist arrived. A new message appeared in their group chat. A blurry photo of all four of them together outside the location of the secret meeting. Someone had captured everything. The angles. The lighting. The expressions. It was too clear to ignore. It was going viral. Their secret was no longer theirs. And as the world erupted with rumors, speculations, and theories, one truth became undeniable. This night marked the beginning of a new chapter. One filled with challenges, revelations, and choices that would shape all their futures. The secret meeting they wanted to hide was now the moment everyone wanted to talk about. And the world could not look away.